Hi friends, can't lose weight? Here are my top 10 sugar-reducing foods and how you can eat some of them. Number 1 is the black bean. Black beans have a low glycemic index, so they won't spike your blood sugars like white bread or white flour tortilla. This is the most nutritious part of the black bean plant since this bean seed can grow into another plant. Half a cup of black beans will also give you over 7 grams of protein. They are also full of complex carbohydrate, which will take your body some time to break it down, unlike drinking a soda or juice or eating desserts. For those of you that are avoiding beans because you've been told it's bad for your thyroid gland, then you may want to reconsider that, as there is no data to support that theory. Even soy consumed in moderation has been proven not to worsen any thyroid condition. If you are on a thyroid replacement hormone, then all food, including beans, can interfere with the absorption of that medicine, and it is best to take your thyroid replacement hormone 4 hours away from eating any type of food. Most people take it early in the morning on an empty stomach. Now, if you've been worried about gaining weight on beans, then what are you putting in your beans? Because if you cook them without fat and sugar, then those beans have been shown to help people lose weight. Beans even have a second meal effect, where it continues to help people lose weight by keeping people full and helping people control their blood sugars at the next meal. Now, honestly, I never liked beans, but my parents, they loved beans and they would cook it all the time, so I got used to eating it. But when I went away for college, I don't remember ever seeing a bean dish served in the dorms. I do remember a deluxe ice cream bar. And obviously, when compared to ice cream to a bowl of beans, the ice cream will always win. Until you make some bean nice cream. Now, I didn't make this up. Frozen beans are actually a dessert that Asians eat all the time. And this was one of my favorite ways to eat beans as a child. It's really easy to make. Take your can of black beans and rinse it a couple of times and let that drain. Now, in a tall container, put your favorite plant milk. I personally prefer soy because I'm always looking for the phytoestrogens as well as the high protein concentration in soy milk as opposed to other milks. I also want to get that calcium. Now, I'm going to add some pitted dates. You'll probably need at least 6 to 8 dates for an entire can of beans. Now add your beans and now just blend all of it together. This is the base of the ice cream. My kids complain it's not really ice cream since there's no real cream. Well, that's true, but you'll get the ice part, and when it defrosts a little bit, it will taste creamy because the beans have a creamy texture when you blend it. You can actually add nuts or raisins or other dried fruits and make this kind of like a rocky road. Some of you may think that this is a carbohydrate load. You're absolutely correct. And when you eat quality carbohydrates, it's really not the same as eating simple sugars like honey or table sugar or high fructose corn syrup. The reason is because in my nice cream, I actually have food for my gut microbiome. They play a tremendous role in my body's inflammation and carbohydrate metabolism. And if you eat foods that can reach your colon to feed your gut microbiome, you can significantly improve your carbohydrate metabolism and your blood sugars. And I'll explain more about this principle a little bit later. Now, number 2 is to eat the Indian gooseberry. Now, if you only judged a food by its macronutrient ratio, how much carbs, proteins, and fat it has, then you would most likely not want to eat the Indian gooseberry. But of all the berries, this berry has been proven to help people lower their blood sugars. So I've actually trained myself to eat this berry every day, but it's not for its blood sugar control. I eat the Indian gooseberry because it is the most antioxidant-rich food. And as an added bonus, I get the blood sugar benefit. Now, a normal fasting blood sugar is less than 100. And if you're between 100 to 125, you're in the pre-diabetics range. When you are over 125, you have diabetes. Many people take the diabetes drug glyburide to lower their blood sugars, and it does work, except it has some nasty side effects. Now, did you know that compared to glyburide, amla, or the Indian gooseberries, about 3/4 of a teaspoon a day can also lower your blood sugar? And if you have high cholesterol, it'll lower that too. Glyburide won't do that. Amla could potentially cut your triglycerides in half. So where do you get this stuff? Go to your local Indian grocery store and you will find a ton of varieties. However, don't make any dietary changes without telling your doctor, especially if you're on diabetes medication. You don't want to take amla and glyburide and then have your blood sugars tank to dangerous levels, or you may not wake up to talk to your doctor. And that won't be a good thing. Now, Indian gooseberry should not be used as a permission to eat crappy food. Now, people often villainize carbohydrates, but they're not all equal. It's not like clothing. One size does not fit all. Food does not work the same way. The quality of your carbohydrate dictates the strength of your immune system, as well as the architecture of your body, as well as your metabolism of that carbohydrate. For example, when I say carbohydrates, most people think about soda, candy, juices, and bread. By all accounts, these are all high carbohydrate foods, but they don't have the same biochemistry in your body. Now, between these four items, you may be surprised to learn that juices would be the healthiest. In fact, some juices are very low in carbohydrates, like kale juice, which is also rich in antioxidants, including sulforaphanes. Kale juice is also rich in vitamins like vitamin A and vitamin C that are important for blood sugar regulation. And when you lack vitamin A, your pancreas actually makes less insulin. And supplementation has been shown to improve blood sugar control. And so has supplementation of vitamin C. Now, when you think of juice, most people are probably thinking about sugary juices like orange juice or apple juice. But contrary to popular belief, drinking juice along with controlling your calories, it doesn't actually worsen blood sugar control. And honestly, your blood sugar control will depend upon what else you're eating. Now, if you choose to eat citrus fruits like oranges, it's actually also been shown to boost DNA repair, and it's been shown to be protective against Alzheimer's. And this isn't true for sugary drinks. Have you ever had Tang? I tried it once and it tastes pretty good. Now, even though it has oranges on its labels, it literally has no orange in the drink. Take a look at the first and second ingredient. It's sugar and sugar. It's basically sugar and fructose, and then it has a whole bunch of chemicals as well as artificial flavors like yellow 5 and yellow 6, as well as a couple of emulsifiers. I was talking to my friend over the weekend who told me he used Tang to study at night, and it totally wired him and kept him up. Why wouldn't it? It's full of sugar. Now, I have several problems with Tang as well as other sugary beverages. They should not be lumped with all natural juices. The quality of carbohydrates are absolutely like night and day. For orange juice, even though it has sugar, and that's why your blood sugar will go up when you drink it, it has a whole bunch of other nutritious elements that Tang does not have. And these includes vitamin A, vitamin C, B vitamins, calcium, a little bit of iron, some magnesium, potassium, some zinc, and trace amounts of fatty acids and amino acids. But what is unique to citrus fruits in general is the antioxidant Hesperidin. Did you know that drinking orange juice has shown to improve cholesterol levels? However, if I were to pick a juice to drink, I would actually pick one with the highest concentration of polyphenols. From this chart, it seems like the purple grape juice is a winner. Now, this doesn't reduce a blood sugar spike after drinking the juice. And if you're drinking the wrong kind of juice, like apple juice, you're getting a boatload of fructose and more fructose, which your body doesn't digest well. So concentrated fructose, like table sugar, which is half fructose, in that Tang or in the apple juice, is really essentially alcohol without the buzz. Now, many people understand that alcohol is actually a toxin. Now, you can eat a small amount of fructose, and that can be metabolized by your gut and not even absorbed in your bloodstream. However, once it passes that gut, it gets absorbed directly in your bloodstream and goes to your liver. And fructose gets converted to fat that gets trapped in the liver and causes fatty liver. So people who struggle with liver inflammation, like those with chronic hepatitis C, actually have been shown to do worse when they eat processed fructose. They actually have worse liver fibrosis. However, eating whole fruit, even though it has fructose inside, was not correlated with worsening liver disease. Fatty liver, that does need to be reversed to improve your blood sugar response. Hence, drinking sugary beverages, including fruit juice, is not a good idea. But eating whole fruit is very good for everyone, including those with fatty liver, as well as blood sugar issues like diabetes, unless you're actually allergic to the fruit. Now, when you eat whole fruit, much of the fruit is water, so it is low in calories. And it also has a lot of fiber, and trapped in the fiber are the polyphenols in fruits. And together, all of this protects your body from sugar surges. In fact, if you restrict your calories and lose some weight, the diet with whole fruit is much better for weight loss and metabolism than the diet without added all-natural whole fruits. So number 3, just eat more fresh fruits. Really start with any whole fresh fruit. Please avoid fruit cups, applesauce, and fruit juice. Now again, despite fruit having fructose, it's been shown for decades that a diet rich in fruit helps to lower people's weight as well as their blood pressure. And in this study, participants ate 2,134 grams of sweet fruit a day, which translates into about 27 servings of fruit if a serving is 80 grams of fruit. They ate fruit spread out for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And not only did it not increase their triglycerides, nor their weight or their blood pressure, they actually achieved lower LDL cholesterol by 38 points. Fruits are high in a special soluble fiber called pectin. That's the same ingredient that people use as a thickener for cooking and baking. However, like sugar, pectin in excess has side effects. And if you're using pectin to add sugar to make jams, then you will have even more side effects. Try to eat fruits with skin, kind of like berries or an apple. And of course, different fruits have different glycemic indexes, with berries being some of the lowest. But I understand berries can be expensive, especially if you don't live in the right climate. Frozen berries I find much cheaper, and they may even be better in quality than many fresh berries, which after I buy it, they spoil so quickly that I really don't get to eat it. And definitely eating frozen is better than eating no berry at all. But if you have insulin resistance, eating fruit may elevate your blood sugars. So here's a trick to eating them. First, create a fiber wall that buffers you from the sugar or the other carbohydrates. And the best way to do that is to eat dark leafy green vegetables, which you can do raw or cooked. You just have to eat enough of them. So number 4, eat a low-calorie, dark green leafy salad first. This forms a physical barrier, but it also activates your metabolism with the vitamin A, the magnesium, and vitamin C in those green leaves. Leafy greens are considered non-starchy vegetables, and by adding them to your diet, even one serving has been shown to improve blood sugar control and prevent diabetes. Now, if you like lettuce, it's okay to eat lettuce, just don't drown it in fatty and sugary sauces. So broccoli with butter will unlikely help reduce your blood sugar levels. Neither will getting bacon and Brussels sprouts. You may be surprised that cooking high-fat foods with cruciferous vegetables isn't good for your health. And you may be asking, isn't getting some vegetables better than not getting any vegetables? Well, when it comes to immunity, I think getting some is better than none. Did you know that smokers who eat a good amount of omega-3 fatty foods live just as long as non-smokers who don't have omega-3 fats in their diet? That's the power of omega-3 fats. But of course, non-smokers who have an adequate amount of omega-3 fats live actually the longest. But when it comes to improving your metabolism of sugar, eating dietary fat ends up reducing your body's ability to metabolize sugar. So how does this work? Well, the reason why eating fat can sabotage your carbohydrate metabolism is because when you eat fat, it inhibits your body's ability to remove the fat that is in your liver. Fatty liver is the beginning of poor carbohydrate metabolism, as the liver interacts with your pancreas to control the amount of insulin that's secreted in your body. The liver is also a sugar buffer, and when you don't have enough sugar in your diet, your liver will constantly make out sugar from its own stores, or it can convert proteins and fats into sugars as well. At any given time, you need some glucose in your system or you're going to pass out. And you may be able to survive without eating any carbohydrates because your liver is your backup. This concept goes against what you may be hearing on the internet, which is a high-fat, low-carbohydrate diet. And you may have done that yourself and lost some weight and noticed that your blood sugars improved. However, that improvement is from your weight loss. And when you put yourself on any kind of restricted diet, whether it's a low carbohydrate diet, a high fat diet, a calorie counting diet, a paleo diet, a blood type diet, a DASH diet, a Pritikin diet, a fasting diet, a Mediterranean diet, a fasting mimicking diet, a whole food plant-based diet, or even a high carb diet, as long as you lose weight, you can improve your insulin resistance. And potentially, you can reverse your diabetes. In general, that threshold of weight loss is around 33 pounds. However, at some point, you're going to have to maintain your weight. And at that point, when you stop losing weight, can you continue to eat your diet? And will your diet still improve your insulin resistance? And this is where getting the right diet can keep you insulin sensitive. By understanding the biochemistry of how your body works, you will understand why the right diet is crucial for your health and the maintenance of your insulin sensitivity to reverse your diabetes or protect you from diabetes. Have you wondered why people are always comparing carbs to fats? They seem the exact opposite nutrients, but they're actually very similar. They're both fuel sources for your metabolism. And between the two, carbohydrates are always preferred as they give the body quick energy. In 1927, this study proved that a diet high in carbohydrates compared to a diet high in fat or high in protein or no food at all was the best diet to improve insulin sensitivity in just 2 days. Too bad they didn't have a high whole food fiber diet. Now, they separated normal, healthy males into 4 groups. One group ate a high-fat diet with oil, cream, and butter. The second group fasted and had nothing to eat. And then the third group had a high protein diet. And the last group, they ate a high carbohydrate diet with sugar and starches. Now, I love this paper because it illustrates that your body can change in just a couple of days of changing your diet. And it also proves that carbohydrates, even poor quality carbohydrate, that does not make people more insulin resistant, which goes against all the common dietary advice that I also received when I had gestational diabetes. Now, I think it's so popular that it's become mainstream, well accepted by many people, yet the rates of diabetes have been skyrocketing out of control. Now, if you think about the biochemistry, this actually makes sense. People who eat fat get fat adapted and metabolize fat more efficiently, so they don't feel like they have the keto flu, which happens within the first week of transitioning to a low carbohydrate diet. Likewise, if you train your body to just eat carbohydrates, it will be more efficient at metabolizing the carbohydrates. Generally, the body should be able to metabolize both, but it can only do it in limited amounts. And the average American diet is consuming far more than the body can handle. It's kind of like taking your car to the mechanic that is really efficient at changing your tires, because that's all they do day in and day out, change tires. But if you take your car for a tire change at a body shop that only replaces windows, well, they may know how to change tires, but you're going to be waiting there a long time because they have to go get supplies, like maybe the tires, to change them. And imagine if more and more cars show up wanting their tires changed, then that body shop is going to be backed up. And when you eat carbohydrates, you're actually training your body to metabolize carbohydrates, and it will more efficiently get the sugar out of your bloodstream. So if your goal is to have normal blood sugars, then you have to help your body get more efficient eating carbohydrates. And you can do this by avoiding adding fats and high-fat foods. This is because fats are more than just a way to store energy. Fats are actually signaling molecules that can regulate your metabolism. Normally, when your body senses fat in your blood, that's a signal that you have excess food, and now it's time to store some away for a rainy day. After all, in the old days, fatty foods signal abundance and surplus. Lard was coveted in the old days, and only the rich who had access to animals could get that. Now, we all have an innate intuition to store food, just like bears that overeat to prepare for the winter hibernation. However, unlike bears that live out in nature, we've really changed our food environment. It's very unnatural. We have an abundance of food 24/7. It's like we're on a cruise ship day in, day out. And your body can't handle that much excess calories in carbohydrates, nor in fat or protein. And the thing is, you can't store excess carbohydrates or proteins. Any extra carbs and proteins are stored as fat. There are many signals to tell the body when to store fat. One of that is the presence of insulin, which is triggered by eating carbohydrates, as well as proteins. And the second trigger is free-floating fat in the blood. Whether that fat is from your own body making fat or from your foods, the same message is sent: store energy. Now, fat has an advantage over glucose metabolism because fats, they don't need a doorbell to go inside a cell, since a cell is made out of fat as well. So you can imagine that the cell can quickly pile up with fat, especially if you're eating high-fat foods all day long, such as your breakfast, bacon, donut, and muffin, to your lunch, hamburger, french fries, and shake, and then your buttered potato and steak for dinner. If this is your diet, then your body will be getting signals to store fat, even if you're limiting those calories and trying to lose weight. Saturated fat is a particular problem for those people who are susceptible to getting prediabetes and diabetes. The pancreas is very sensitive to fat, and unfortunately, saturated fat, we know, damages the pancreas so that it can't secrete insulin well. And it basically burns out your pancreas. But this process is reversible when you stop overeating saturated fat and lose some weight. If you don't eat carbohydrates, then you won't easily notice this because you won't have symptoms of high blood sugars. And you may not have a problem for several years or even decades. When I had gestational diabetes, my endocrinology friend told me that she thought I had burned out my pancreas from the fruit that I ate throughout my life. Now, that just never made any sense to me, especially since people who eat a high carbohydrate, whole food, plant-based diet have the lowest rates of getting diabetes, and they eat a lot of fruit. Another problem with saturated fat is that it's toxic to muscle mitochondria, also further inhibits muscle glucose metabolism by reducing insulin receptors, as well as the responsiveness of those receptors. And this makes physiological sense because the presence of fat, you really don't need the ability to process sugar, especially if the mitochondria is less efficient. And this is why when you remove high saturated fat foods, like dairy, meats, and poultry, then your blood sugars will dramatically improve when you eat carbohydrates. And it just takes a few days to get that jump started so you can see the results. Likewise, when you eat a high-fat diet like a ketogenic diet, your blood sugars will dramatically increase when you decide to eat carbohydrates. Now, the reality is most people can't sustain a high-fat, low-carb diet like a ketogenic diet because it's honestly not very tasty. So then they decide to eat a low-carbohydrate, high-protein diet, and they call it their version of a keto diet. But they are really never in ketosis since protein also stimulates the release of insulin. The rise of insulin shuts off ketone production, and that is designed on purpose to protect your body from getting too acidic and develop a life-threatening condition called ketoacidosis. And this is why a high-protein diet will not have the same effect as a ketogenic diet because protein also causes insulin to rise to shut off ketone production. So in essence, the presence of insulin shuts off the body's ability to burn its own stored fat, and instead, insulin causes the body to save more fat. And this is why eating a high-protein diet can make a person more insulin resistant compared to eating a high-carbohydrate diet. But if you're limiting your carbohydrates, then you may not notice that this is happening in your body. The people who get the symptom of insulin resistance, high blood sugars, are the people who eat a high carbohydrate, high fat, and high protein diet, which is basically the people who are overeating everything. Unfortunately, there's so much confusion about glucose metabolism that people default to the simple concept that eating carbohydrates contributes to insulin resistance. And this is only partially true because you can only find the symptoms of diabetes if you eat carbohydrates. If you don't eat carbohydrates, you don't really need much insulin to help you process what isn't there in boluses, carbohydrates. It's kind of like whether or not you need a bag to collect Halloween candy. You only need a bag if you're going to collect the candy. If you're not going to collect any candy, then you really don't need a bag. So if you're not going to eat carbohydrates, then you really don't need much insulin. However, if you do eventually plan to eat carbohydrates, then it's important to get this concept correct. So there are 3 key points to understanding carbohydrate metabolism. We already talked about the first point, which is insulin resistance, and that happens in the presence of saturated fat. The second point is a diet rich in carbohydrates, which leads to an improvement in insulin sensitivity. However, here is the third key point. Not all carbohydrates are equal. And why do you want to get insulin sensitive and have normal blood sugars? The whole point is to be healthier and to live longer, correct? So if you can't achieve those goals, then there's really no point in being insulin sensitive and having normal blood sugar levels. So let's go back to historical data. I mentioned that in the old days, they gave people with type 1 diabetes a high carbohydrate diet to reduce their insulin needs, and that normalized their blood sugars with the smallest amount of insulin. However, do you know what happened to those people? They actually had a higher rate of heart disease, and this is because they were eating highly processed refined carbohydrates. So the key to getting more insulin sensitive and staying healthy is not just to eat any carbohydrates, it's really to avoid processed refined carbohydrates. The more whole food, plant-centered you eat, the more insulin sensitive you will be, and you will be able to better tolerate carbohydrates and become healthier, which will allow you to eat number 5, whole oats. There are several kinds of oats in the store. Quick oats has the highest glycemic index, so it's the least healthy since it's the most processed. Rolled oats is a better option. It has a lower glycemic index. And the glycemic index, that tells you how fast your food will increase your blood sugar compared to white bread, which is 100. Now, steel-cut oats would be even better, as that is closer to the whole grain. Oat groats are the best, as it is the whole grain. And when you cook oats, you will notice it's kind of viscous, slimy, and sticky, and that's because it has a lot of soluble fibers that trap the simple sugars, the fats, and proteins so that they are slowly released in the bloodstream. In addition, the prebiotic fiber in oats, they feed your beneficial gut microbiome called Lactobacillus, Bifidobacterium, and Akkermansia. And these in turn make beneficial anti-inflammatory short-chain fatty acids like butyrate. So number 6, eat more fiber in your diet and target at least 30 grams daily. And it's even better to reach 50 grams or more in a day. And there are several advantages to eating whole food fiber. Number 1 is that you need fiber to know when you are full. Fiber signals the brain that you can stop eating because there are receptors in the colon that detect your fiber. The second part is that when you eat fiber-rich foods, less of that food gets absorbed since your body can't digest fiber. Therefore, you can eat more volume and have less calories. And people who eat more fiber, they simply have less metabolic diseases. 50 grams a day is what I think we should all be aiming for. However, our current recommended daily amount is about 30 grams daily. The average American gets roughly 15 grams or less daily of fiber. Now, it's important to diversify your fiber, and that's why number 7 is to add Lima beans to your diet because it contains a soluble fiber called pectin that's associated with reducing blood sugar spikes. Now remember to soak your beans overnight, throw away that water, and then thoroughly cook your beans until it's soft with new water. And sure, you're going to lose some nutrients, but you are soaking it to remove phytic acid. Phytic acid is also known as inositol hexaphosphate or IP6, which is believed to protect your DNA, and it's an anti-cancer molecule. Plus, it can prevent stones by inhibiting calcium crystal buildup. So why are we getting rid of it? Well, you basically don't have enzymes to break it down. And as it passes through your gut, it binds to iron, zinc, and calcium, which prevents its absorption from your diet. This could be good if you have hemochromatosis or an iron overload, but people who eat a lot of beans are basically vegetarians and vegans who actually have to be more mindful of their iron and zinc stores. Now, when I make beans, I like to throw in spices and put them all in an Instant Pot, which is basically a pressure cooker. And I usually will add some bay leaves, cumin, garlic, onion, turmeric, tomatoes, jalapeno, peppers, coriander, and whatever else is in my spice bar. By the way, if you want your bean creamy, instead of adding fat, you can just blend it and release some of that soluble fiber and starch to give it that creamy texture. And it'll be even creamier if you blend it with some softened nuts. Number 8 is to add black cumin to your daily routine. It seems taking 2 grams of black cumin a day significantly improve insulin resistance even at a year of follow-up. 2 grams, do you know how much that is? That's like a quarter of a teaspoon. Black cumin seems to work by protecting the pancreatic cells from oxidative stress, as taking Nigella sativa increases glutathione levels. Now, the pancreas is a very delicate tissue. This organ is so delicate that it is very difficult to operate on. That's why when people have inflammation of the pancreas or pancreatitis, the treatment is to allow them to rest by fasting. So when you take black cumin, not only is it good for your pancreas, but it also improves the insulin sensitivity in your muscles. Now, number 9 is really not a food per se, but it's very important for good blood sugar regulation as well as good health, and that is to have an adequate level of vitamin D daily. Now, some people, their body won't make enough, and taking a low-dose vitamin D supplement reduces the risk of developing diabetes. There are so many factors that can contribute to low vitamin D levels. That's why I take a vitamin D supplement daily. I actually take many supplements to optimize my health as I really don't trust my food. Plus, I had a vitamin D level checked during fellowship. And at that time, I was in supplementing and I had a single-digit number. That's really, really bad. And it only takes one essential micronutrient to be suboptimal for the body to struggle. And at that time, I was struggling with gestational diabetes. Now, hence, I take vitamin D daily. If you want to know what I take, I have a link in the show notes below. I think many people, though, they don't realize that they need to take a vitamin D supplement because they assume they have enough because their body's supposed to make it. But your body can't make vitamin D out of thin air. You have to go into the sunlight and spend enough time in the right kind of sunlight to make vitamin D. I don't know about you, but I struggle to get myself outdoors because I have an indoor job. There are vitamin D receptors in every single cell in your body. It is that important. So if you don't have enough vitamin D, even if you weren't deficient like I was in the single digits, your health will still struggle. Vitamin D deficiency has been linked to insulin resistance along with complications of diabetes. However, many people who just take vitamin D still struggle to get their vitamin D levels up, and one common reason is because they don't have an adequate amount of magnesium, which is also important to regulate blood sugars. So number 10 is to make sure you eat enough magnesium by eating dark leafy green vegetables, which are packed with chlorophyll. And hidden in the center of each of the chlorophyll is magnesium, which almost half of the US population, they don't get enough of it. Magnesium is so important for your health because it is involved in over 300 normal daily biochemical reactions. So I also take a magnesium supplement as insurance for my health. Now, I'm sure if you're like me, you have insurance for everything. Your car, your home, disability, liability, life. Some of that you may or may not use, but you're still going to pay thousands of dollars for them annually. We all have insurance as a safety net, and that's why I take supplements, which is a fraction of the cost of the car insurance that I'm paying for my teenager. Now, I hope to never have to use that insurance, but I know I'm using my supplement insurance policy daily because I see that on my skin. On the days I don't adequately top off and forget to take my supplements, my hands can't take the abuse of hand washing that I have to do as a physician every day. And your skin is one of the most sensitive organs to changes in your blood sugars and immunity. And if you want to learn more about that, watch the next video.